plays well.
You know,
Family's got him drug off.
Raleigh had a game over at Schuyler County, and I don't think,
This
well,
is
they
the
might
end
well
of the
have
year
it
games,
right.
isn't it? Playoff type stuff.
nope. After you get the, right now, whatever, when you pay yourself.
Hey, we can volunteer him for all kinds of stuff this evening.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's a couple of committees.
Did you see your story? Did you see your story?
Did you look at the bills?
No, I didn't look at them.
Here they are.
I'll sign checks. I went
I've
over to know more.
Dot
I'll look at this
Dot
part.
and I approved them.
Okay.
I got
That's
that.
outlandish. But I think somebody added one just now.
Yeah,
You did?
Yeah.
I did.
We ain't gonna look
I've been
at that.
somewhere.
We ain't gonna look at that for another 2 months.
I hear you.
Can't do it. Not in the budget.
Oh, I think it is. Well, wait for anybody. And, oh, it's time according to my watch, yes.
All right.
Well, I hereby call to order the meeting of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Edina for the month of December 2015. If you all bear with me, we'll start with a little invocation here. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for our little town on the hill here, and we thank you that we live in the greatest country with the freedoms that we take for granted every day, but we'd like to thank you for them at this point. We'd ask you, if you would, to look out for all the good people of Edina and please help lighten their burdens this holiday season. Please also look in on our employees as they go about their day-to-day operations. Please keep them safe. Please also look in on your elected and appointed officials and give them the strength and the vision and the courage to do things as you would have them done, Lord. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen. Renee, would you lead us in the pledge?
I
pledge
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Somebody told me the other day that we've been saying the Pledge of Allegiance wrong all these years, that when Pauline was here, it was not one nation under God, it was one nation under God. It was, there was no pause there.
That's the way I was taught too.
And that we've been blowing it the whole time, so I apologize for that.
You remember that?
We'll work on that.
When I started saying it, we didn't have
That
it.
was
It was added when I was a young boy in grade school.
really.
I remember before we had it.
Well,
Taught us not to pause.
Well, anyway, let's proceed. Do we have minutes of prior meetings we need to address?
November 9th, the Board of Aldermen met in regular session with Mayor Strickler presiding. Alderman President Renee Edwards, Ron Stansberry, Rick Flinter, Bill Alberti, Dot Cricksizer, Delmer Strange. Absent none. Mayor Strickler called the meeting to order and gave the invocation. The Pledge of Allegiance was led by Renee Edwards. Minutes of the October 12th meeting were read and approved. Collectors and treasurers' reports were given. Peggy College, City Treasurer, met with the board. She noted that the negative figure for the special light fund in October needs to be addressed. She recommended that the budget for the general fund be amended by $10,000 to allow for a transfer to the special light fund. Motion was made by Ron Stansberry and seconded by Rick Winter to amend the budget as recommended by the City Treasurer. Motion carried unanimously. Motion was made by Delmer Strange and seconded by Bill Alberti to pay all bills as presented. Motion carried unanimously. Edina Postmaster Teresa Huno spoke to the board about the trash pickup at the post office. She said the city has quit backing up to their dock and started dragging the trash through the opening in the fence, and she feels this is not a safe route to take. She also stated that she did not know there was a weight limit for the trash bags. Ty Parrish explained that the trash department had quit backing into the dock since there are sometimes vehicles in that area. He also said the city will replace their can that was mistaken for trash and disposed of along with their trash. After some discussion, there was a consensus that the post office trash will be picked up by the alley. Mark Ross of Klinger and Associates met with the board and gave an update on the sewer project, which is approximately 75% complete. He said there's a private line in an area near Fulton Street that should be addressed at some time. Mark said the cost would be approximately $35,000 to $40,000, and this would be a good use of grant funds since the loan money must be used first and then the grant money. He said the city would need easements to do this part of the project, and property owners should be willing to give these in exchange for the sewer work being done. Motion was made by Renee Edwards and seconded by Ron Stansberry to proceed with this additional sewer project. Motion carried unanimously. Bross presented the pay request for the contractors, and the following action was taken. Motion was made by Ron Stansberry and seconded by Renee Edwards to approve the Willis Brothers pay request number 4 in the amount of $229,099.50. Motion carried unanimously. Motion was made by Doc Kirksizer and seconded by Delmer Strange to approve the Keokuk contractors pay request number 1 in the amount of $105,165. Motion carried unanimously. Motion was made by Ron Stansberry and seconded by Rick Winter to approve the Klinger and Associates pay request in the amount of $15,067.58. Motion carried unanimously. Mark stated that the estimate of funds to be requested from USDA Rural Development is $349,332.08. Motion was made by Bill Alberti and seconded by Doc Kirksizer to approve the estimate of funds recommended by Mark Bross. Motion carried unanimously. Bross requested approval of amendment number 1 to the owner-engineer agreement. This amendment would increase the fees outlined in Article C for additional services from $0 to $1,500. This change is necessary to provide additional boundary survey and prepare a legal description for an easement adjustment for the sewer line near the intersection of East Monticello and East Street. The existing sewer line location will require tying into a location that is now in a ditch. Due to concerns with washing out the sewer manhole and possibly the sewer line in the future, the manhole location will be located outside the ditch and require an easement adjustment with the property owner. Amendment number 1 would also increase the fees outlined in Article C for resident project representative inspection services from $85,000 to $150,000. This change is necessary because the original budget was set before design was initiated and assumed about 30% of the project would be replacement of sewer mains. After design, 60% of the project was replacement. Replacement sections require full-time inspection services, whereas lining sections do not. Bross said there are sufficient funds in the contingency portion of the project budget to pay for this increase in amendment number 1. Motion was made by Renee Edwards and seconded by Ron Stansberry to approve amendment number 1 to the owner-engineer agreement as presented by Mark Bross. Motion carried. The ayes were Renee Edwards, Ron Stansberry, Rick Winter, Doc Kirksizer, Delmer Strange, and the nay was Bill Alberti. The following action was taken on applications for building permits. Motion was made by Rick Winter and seconded by Renee Edwards to approve a building permit for Anthony and Terry Ewalt to build a garage 30 by 40 feet on the north side of T&T Rentals at 609 East Lafayette Street. Motion carried unanimously. David Delaney of Delaney Construction addressed the board while they considered an application submitted by Danny Arment. He explained that there is a platted street, which is South 4th Street, which will now be used to access the new building on East Reed Street, and there's currently a vehicle parked on this street. It was the consensus of the board that this vehicle will need to be moved, but this has no bearing on the application. Motion was made by Doc Kirksizer and seconded by Bill Alberti to approve a building permit for Danny Arment to build a commercial building 40 by 60 at 306 East Reed Street. Motion carried. The ayes were Ron Stansberry, Rick Winter, Bill Alberti, Doc Kirksizer, Delmer Strange, and there was one nay, Renee Edwards. Ty Parrish, utility supervisor, met with the board. He reported that a 15-inch tube was recently replaced with a 36-inch tube in the 800 block of North Cotty Street, and more ditching has been done. He said they will be doing some jetting to clear tubes that are clogged with leaves. Ty suggested that everyone burn the leaves on their property to prevent them from stopping up the tubes so the rainwater can drain properly. 2 new dusk to dawn lights have been added at Miller Park. Ty said they will be adjusted to allow for the best light coverage. Ty also confirmed that the city will be making some changes to culverts on North 4th Street to help remedy the flow of water near Doll's Funeral Home, but it may be spring when this work is done. Mike Wright, wastewater superintendent, met with the board. He reported that the UV bulbs, the ultraviolet bulbs that are used in the summer months for treatment, have been taken out, washed, and put away for the winter. He suggested that a padlock be installed on the breaker box at the ballpark so the lights can only be turned on by the proper authorities. Kelly Hayes, chief of police, met with the board. He reported that the speed bumps on West Marion Street have been removed for the winter months. Stop signs and speed bumps were both utilized to slow the traffic down on Marion Street. Local traffic then shifted to West Lafayette Street, and more complaints were received in that area. Hayes said everyone needs to slow down in the residential areas. General municipal election will be Tuesday, April 5th, 2016. The mayor and 1 alderman for each of the 3 wards will be elected to 2-year terms. Motion was made by Renee Edwards and seconded by Delmer Strange to set the filing for December 15th, 2015 to January 19th of 2016. Motion carried unanimously. Mayor Strickler noted that this would be the proper time to announce that he will not be filing for another term. Motion was made by Bill Alberti and seconded by Dot Kricksizer to adjourn. Motion carried. The meeting was adjourned.
Well, that's the way I remember it. Are there any additions or corrections? If there are no additions or corrections, we'll just consider those minutes approved by consensus and acclamation and everything. Hello.
Hello.
We have a collector's report.
Yes. Collections for November 2015. Water total, $19,856.46. Sewer total, $21,952.26. Sanitation total, $13,039.01. General fund total, $21,484.38. Recreation total, $297.06. Street total, $552.66. Special lights total, $3,035.37. Meter deposit total, $1,260. Reserve and improvement fund total, $1,402.62. With a grand total collected, $82,879.82.
Looks like people are starting to pay taxes, their property taxes. Are there any questions for the collector? How bad were our shut-offs this time around?
Not bad. We had 2, or this time we had 1, I think, but they've already been taken care of, so.
Well, good.
The only other thing that I was supposed to bring up, Peggy and I had talked about the dumpsters and how they were doing, the temporary dumpsters. We would like to ask the board if we can increase the price on the 6 yards when they're gonna have shingles put in them, because it costs more to take those to the landfill and it's harder on our equipment. And so basically we were just gonna add in a landfill charge that'll cover that portion of it to help out.
Are we still in line with other dumpsters, I'm sure?
Yes. Yes. We're much cheaper than a
Well,
lot of
that's
them.
what I figured.
Yes.
Well,
And we do it as a service to the customers that we have, so. And a lot of them have said, cause we even asked a few of them that are doing it like construction, and they said we'd be willing to pay that still to get rid of them.
well, make sure you get enough.
Okay.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Hey, can I ask, on that
Yeah.
dumpster,
Mhm.
did that come out of general revenue?
The dumpsters are sanitation.
Sanitation?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
yes.
not out of the general. Yeah, sanitation's just all.
Well, when we get to the
I'm-
budget,
I'm
I
gonna
wanna
detail
ask you,
that. Yes, because we've got enough new people this year that I wanna make sure we get questions answered and give you enough information to make good decisions. So,
so anything having to do with the dumpsters will be in the sanitation department.
And all of our dumpsters have figured into, a repair and replacement fund so that we can replace them after
Cool.
7 years. I don't have that right in front of me, but I think it's 7 years. If we need to, we have enough money coming from those to replace them.
Great.
We tried to figure that in so that we wouldn't be out the initial
Why didn't we
cost again.
think of it?
We've got help.
Well, I mean, you and I personally.
Oh, yeah, me and you should start a trash service here in town.
Is our okay enough to raise her prices? I definitely think we need to do that. If it takes a motion, I'll make it. If not, do it.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yeah, let's have a motion, let's have this.
What do we get for them now? What,
Well, these would just be for the temporary dumpsters, and right now, in town, we get $125. Out of town, we get $165, and again,
That's
if
the
they're,
6 yard.
and this is just the 6 yard, and again, it has to be a customer of ours, we don't just rent them out to anybody. It's gonna raise those, cause we're gonna add in the extra landfill cost, and I made sure that it would cover, it was a little bit more, so it would cover everything. So that'll raise the in-town, if they're gonna put shingles in it, to $203, and out of town to $243.
We check the price per ton that we currently pay,
And I know about how many
Yeah.
tons are in that when we take the shingles down, and
how
I
much
think
for,
that's still a
in
good-
town, 100?
for shingles, or for anything, right now, for
203.
anything, it's $125, for a 6 yard in
per 6
town.
yard.
And then for shingles, how much would it be?
It would be 203.
Makes it $78 more.
Is that,
Yes.
is that shingles or construction materials?
Shingles are the
Shingles.
problem that
Yeah.
that we need to
Shingles.
increase for.
Shingles at the landfill are higher to get rid of.
Well,
And they're
no, it's
heavier
the
and they
thing
don't
of
come
being
out.
heavy, it's the weight, the reason we want it, and the
Wow.
fact that, where's Ty?
They
He
pack
said they
down in there.
pack flat, of course, and so it makes a lot
Fill
more.
that
So the
volume
price would
a lot
still
more.
stay the same for other uses, so if somebody was cleaning out an old garage or anything like that, the price would stay the same for that. This is only gonna be for when it's used for shingles.
How much do we get for them now for just household, if somebody's?
In town's $125. And that includes the repair and replacement costs that we have, and then out of town's $165 right now.
That's for the big one.
That's for 6 yards,
6
that's
yard,
our
6
middle
yard, yeah,
one.
just 6 yard.
I move that we approve the rate increases as just explained to us.
And I will second that motion.
Thank you.
Are there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All those abstaining, same sign. So Madam Clerk, I count 5 ayes, no nays, and one cat's missing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now it's time.
since I'm gonna take a significant amount of time, if you want to check with like number 8 and number 10 to see if they wanna get done before I do, that would be fine with me.
Well, if that's fine with you, I think with the
I know Mark's gotta drive, so
Right.
if he wanted to.
It doesn't take him long to get his money, does it?
if the council
And everybody else.
Fine, we will deviate then and go ahead with number 8, Donnie and Debbie Prim.
You give them pictures?
Yes.
Okay, if you guys haven't heard yet, we're in the process of purchasing the 4-acre south lot from Joseph Holman, which borders the south end of the city lake. And if you look at the pictures, there's a small, I'd call it, it's not a levee, more like a dam area there that we would like to get rid of the brush and level that off, and that way when we put our house up there, we can keep all that mowed. If you look the rest of the lake, there's no other dam or levee around any of the lake other than right there. And we was told early on when the lake was built that Bud Smith had cattle out there, and that's the reason they built that, was to keep the runoff from the cattle, to keep it from going into the lake.
Oh, yeah. I see.
And we would just like to get permission to clean all that up and level that piece of the berm off of there so we can keep it mowed.
This is a good picture of basically the berm that voided where the cattle used to be.
And you're gonna build, you're
Yeah.
not gonna have any cattle.
No, we've already took the
I
fence
know
out.
Holman's had,
Yeah.
or let somebody have some.
Yeah, Clayton Klein had rented that from
Clayton,
Joseph.
okay, I
And
couldn't remember who it
we've
was.
already took the fence off, so
Dean had some.
the fence is gone, and we're gonna, I don't know if you've been by our house, but we mow 5 acres now, so, you know,
So you're downsizing.
we're down, yeah, we're gonna lose an acre. I don't know what Debbie's gonna do with all of her spare time now.
You'll have to find something for her.
Oh, she'll find something.
Yeah. Somebody will have her mow, I'm sure.
At least the same.
Yeah, there's 2
Yes,
sets of
the
pictures.
2 sets
Okay.
that coming down.
How far north does that run?
It'll be, the berm will actually go behind Joseph's house.
It does, it
It
continues
goes
on
up there and it just quits right there where
At
Bud
the-
Smith had his property line. Well, it'd be to
Where
the edge of the golf course,
starts.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I know it wasn't on the golf course.
No, and, you know, around the whole lake, there's no other
No.
berm around all of it. It's just that one location where he had cattle.
Yes, about from here, this is a guesstimate that we'll own.
And we're waiting on the surveyors as far as splitting it off of his
And
property.
this is from
Right.
the
That's all we're
courthouse.
waiting for now is the surveyors to get done, and
So
so
this
we're
would be our
gonna put a house and a shop there, so.
And, then this is the.
I can't think of any other reason why that would have been done.
That's what we thought too, and from talking with the older people in town, that was the only reason it was built in the first place.
I
was-
mean, that land actually sits a little higher than a lot of the golf course property.
Yeah.
Huh? I mean, it wasn't as a dam against
Yeah, it's,
overflow from the lake.
right.
It was because it was used for drinking water at the time.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they wanted
Keep
to
the manure and stuff out of the lake.
Pass me those, show you, so you'll understand
So
what we're
that's,
talking about.
keep
This is
it out of the lake,
basically a
not
good
the lake
picture
coming
of
back.
Pasture runoff.
berm or
Put the cows
levee
in there.
Yeah.
that prevented the cattle
It
runoff from
wouldn't
getting
create
into
a
the water source lake years ago.
Not
Well,
unless
it'd
you
be-
run livestock in there, and they're not gonna do that 'cause it's expensive.
This is a sample
Right,
of
and there's
what it
a-
looks like across the lake on the other side of the lake. Where, yes, and
Could we put a condition on it that you not run livestock or something?
That's,
I mean, that wouldn't.
they would
create a
have to
problem
be free
for-
range, cause I'm not building the fence back.
I almost want to say we can put a provision that I won't have a dog.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
This person behind you might want cat there.
I'll let them put in there that we won't have fencing.
Oh, you mean, like if we.
Somewhere down the road, yeah,
put a stipulation in there that
difference.
that we could.
if it goes back to livestock, it'll have to be, the ditch will have to be returned to.
Could we do that and somewhere or other get it in recordable form so it would,
It's not gonna bother me. You know, like I said, we've lived in our house since
I don't
'91
wanna
and I'm
create
moving.
problems for you, but
Right,
Well, now that's not,
To kinda
now
cover
that
our-
that's not a drinking water source, I don't
I was
know.
gonna
I don't know if it would
You could
matter,
put
but.
enough cows in there for it to be a problem.
Well, that's true too.
I don't think it'd be as big of a deal as all the, I mean, you get lots of chemicals and stuff washed in there from the croplands,
Right.
west side, north side. They're gonna be worse for your lake than if they're running from the cattle there.
Horses across the road
And like I
there.
say, yeah, it's
That's a
not,
straight access.
right, you get horses on the east side of the highway and that comes right in your main feed there. So, I mean, it's not used for drinking water anymore, so I wouldn't think it'd be as big of a deal.
There's no worry that there'll be cattle
horses, goats, dogs, anything.
As long as you're there.
Yeah, as long as
Dogs,
you-
even a loose dog in the yard.
And our plan is to keep it mowed, you know,
Yes, it
keep
would
all
be.
that mowed.
I take a lot of pride in how my yard looks, and I have no problem
That would be
maintaining.
a pretty spot.
That'd be a plus.
Do we want to put any restrictions?
I don't see a problem with it.
Or are we just creating problems?
Is there anything you can think of we need to
No,
say different?
They approached me about it first, Donnie did, and I have no problem with it, but I said it's probably above my head to make that call on my own, so. Like I said, where it's not used for drinking water, if I was buying the place, I'd want the burn down.
Clean the brush up,
Yeah,
level
clean
it
the
up.
brush
and
off of it, and
Any other work that you have to do there will have to be permitted by us, like if you wanted to
I mean, a lot of it's gonna
build a
depend on.
dock or
Right.
something.
Yeah, a lot of it's gonna depend on where the property line lays. I mean, I don't know how close the property line comes to the water. I don't know how that lays, but I don't see a problem with it. I mean, like I said, where it's not used for drinking water anymore. That was the big deal with the berm.
I guess, you know, you get that mowed, I'm supposed that people show up and wanna fish there.
And we
No, we're
realize
not.
that, you
No,
know,
we're-
that's,
And that strip would still be public property.
Of course,
The
yes.
shoreline, yeah, will belong to the.
and we realize that.
Put up a sign, you not to cross this line.
And it wouldn't be your liability either, so.
Fish here, but don't fish here.
How many feet does the city have from that berm? I mean, from.
Pardon me?
How much rock room is there from the city lake to your property?
To
line?
the shore,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, it kind of varies.
And yeah, and
It's
it's-
Yeah,
real
it
skinny
depends on
and
the
then it
surface.
widens out.
I went to the courthouse and got this, Renee. Here's Highway 15, and here's the lake road.
Right.
And this area, you can tell, that dark spot, that's that deep
Berm.
berm.
So you don't own quite a bit away from the berm. But
Yeah,
you're gonna
it's
go ahead and
like-
mow this for the
it's-
city that you're saying?
Yes, yes, I
Yeah, that
will,
would be
yes,
good.
very much so. And, you know, keep it weed eated down, and like I said, I take a lot of pride in how my place looks, and
I guess make it nice so whoever does wanna fish off that doesn't have to fight the weeds.
and this right now, the city has kept mowed up, it looks
Partially,
really
yeah.
nice.
Yeah. I just didn't know how much room there was between here and your
And
line.
I wanna say 3 mower widths.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, it's,
I thought there might be more.
am I telling her
Well,
probably right on that?
The farthest part south is pretty wide.
Yes,
But once
but
you get
up
up
in-
in the other area, it's pretty narrow up in there,
that
from where the
turnaround
fence
driveway
was.
thing there.
Well, I don't think it'll hurt the city. It looks to me like it might actually even help to have it mowed up where I can go fishing.
They have mushrooms.
I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say, I always have a pitcher of cold tea in the fridge.
Doesn't look like good mushroom territory, Judge. Do we need some kind of a motion so we'll have a record of this, or is it just our consensus you think good enough?
I think it'd be nice if they had something to come back to if they need to.
Well, in that case, the chair would entertain a motion.
Move, they be allowed to remove the berm, level, and what else you gonna do?
Just get rid of the brush.
Remove the brush. I'm not gonna put any restrictions on it. If somebody thinks we should.
I don't think we need to.
Remove berm, remove the brush.
Was there a second to that motion?
We wish them the best of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Strange. Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All those abstaining, same sign. Did I say that twice?
I hope you
Madam Clerk, 5 ayes, no nays, 1 still absent.
Yeah, anything weird going on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And then can't wait to see your new home.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Me too.
In and out.
Mr. Ross, would you like to slip in?
Yes, thank you.
And you can get home before midnight.
I've been here since 2:30. Okay, just kinda give you an update on where we're at, what's going on. The digging contractors, have, I think, 5 runs of sewer left. Probably take the equivalent of about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, to finish digging that. So still got some concrete work to do, and I'll have some more as we get back into spring and other things. But, they're probably about 80%, 85% done with their work. Kit cut contractors has been working down at the wastewater plant. We have one of the rotors, aerator rotors, replaced.
Oh, excellent.
Last week, and we anticipate the other one will be replaced this week.
Excellent.
The screen equipment will be delivered this week. They hope to get in the valves and the gate down there on the oxidation ditch and on the pump station lines that pump to it before Christmas is their plan. So we do have the SCADA equipment or control equipment in. We'll be working with the electrician on scheduling when we're going to put that in place too. So things are moving along on that one pretty well. I think Mike's a lot happier that he's got some security now with the rotors running properly. So after this week, he'll feel even better. But and then the lining guys have their subcontractor in jetting the lines, cleaning them. And I know we've had a few issues with phone calls of toilets kind of splashing up and things like that. I think we've had a dozen, 15, maybe 20 of those. And we've worked with them to try to have them turn some of the pressure down on some of their equipment and slow down a little bit. I think that still continues to be a little bit of an issue, but one of the issues they can't control is the venting, the sewer venting on some of those houses. Some of them don't have vents, and that causes that issue too. It looks for the path of least resistance, and sometimes that's the toilet. So you know, we're trying to address those as they come up. I know we had one situation with a lady that had called, and I think she even talked to you, Mayor, and she had some damage, but she wouldn't let anybody in to take a picture or help clean up anything. And so we've got to work through that issue with the subcontractor on that. But if you guys get any issues like that, you know, I know City Hall, the call usually comes to City Hall, and they're good about talking to my inspector, and most of the time we can just go right over to the crew and take care of it. But sometimes they don't, for whatever reason, don't want the crew to come into the house to look at it or document anything, and that becomes a little bit of a challenge. Because if they want it taken care of, you know, we have to use the contractor's insurance to do that, and you gotta have documentation to get insurance to pay. So if they have that issue, you need to make sure you educate them on that fact so that they can get it covered. I think they should be done cleaning here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then I think our lining contractor's due to come in mid-January, and we won't be having toilets bubble up and things like that anymore. And again, it's not everybody's, but you can't always pick whose it is or determine why. So,
Did you have a question, young lady?
Yeah, Mark, is it, with all that pressure, with the pressure fluctuation, is it the plumbing underneath okay? Like, for example, we had an office on the square, had 5 of the geysers within like a 2.5 hour period where it shoots up out of the toilet. I should have got over there and made a video of it. I just didn't feel like getting splashed with toilet water. But
I understand.
should we be worried about the plumbing underneath? Because I mean, it is an ancient building. Do you think it could
It's
take
not an
anything
issue
loose?
where it's not an issue where it's going to damage piping or anything like that.
Okay.
It's, you know, it will blow out of the toilet before it does that. That's basically what's going on. If it had a vent, then it would release up through the vent rather than up through the toilet. So, you know, there's there's some issues with internal plumbing that people really ought to have some vents on some of their homes
Well,
and
the older
businesses
houses
too.
don't have that.
Well, yeah, this was on the square, you know, and the square's old,
Yeah.
so.
And that's just an internal plumbing issue that we can't fix, so. But no, there's not a risk of it damaging the pipes or something like that, so. Also, I told you I'd come back and talk to you about that line that we discovered on Fulton Avenue. We have surveyed that, and I think we've identified the property owners involved. Most of that line is on one property owner that has his sewer service go out to the street, not to that line, so that may complicate how we do things here, but we gave you a ballpark estimate last time. We're gonna finish laying that out, how that should go, and get an actual number from the contractor and bring it back to your plans to have that back at the January meeting, so you guys can consider what you wanna do there. And then, of course, then we still gotta deal with the potential easement concern too, so.
Is the big landowner, he's gonna give us an easement, right?
Well, we don't know that yet. We won't make an agreement to do anything until we have an easement, so.
I mean, he's been cooperative, or?
Well, my understanding is he and his neighbor don't get along.
Oh, no.
And so that concerns me a little bit, and the fact that the one neighbor that we would probably have to be on goes out to the street also concerns me a little bit, so till we lay this out and then talk to them, I can't give you an answer
Okay.
yet, but yeah, is he gonna give an easement? I don't know, so, we'll see.
We'll hope everybody gets in the Christmas spirit and
Yeah,
cooperate in peace and
Talk to him
goodwill.
Christmas Eve.
yeah, we don't need any breaches. And then, the other update with Purcell Street, also, I talked to Mr. Devaney, and I believe we're to the point where the farm shop people are ready to sign easements, so, that should be coming to a completion here fairly shortly, according to Mr. Devaney, and then we can put that project out for bid, so. It took a little time to sort out some of the property issues with the farm shop, but I think those will be resolved. Is that your understanding? Cause I know you talked to them before, so.
Yes.
So, I think it kinda catches us up on where we're at. We've got some paperwork items to deal with pay requests, and then ordering funds to pay them. The first one is Willis Brothers pay request number 5. Yes, you have a question?
Mr.
Yeah.
Strange has a question, yes.
I've noticed there's a lot of cleanouts in the greater ditches instead of further up on the bank. How,
We put them at the right of way, because we don't have permission to be out of the right of way onto somebody's yard.
on their own, for their own cleanout?
Right.
I just wanted mine up in the yard, I wouldn't want the ditch, but I guess,
Well, some of them are at the ditch, that's just where the right of way line is, in some cases. But most of them are elevated and have a cap on them, so there's not really a concern about ditch water getting into the sewer with it.
no, I mean, if the ditch ever needed to be cleaned out, and here you got a clean out in the middle of the ditch, I mean,
It's something we'll just have to make sure we avoid. I mean, and most of them stick up high enough. We wanna know where they're at, because it's always a
when they're
challenge.
right down in the ditch, I mean, where they need to be graded out, I mean, and the clean out there in the ditch, or just up on the bank a little ways,
Do you have some specific ones that you've seen, or you just
oh,
seen some?
there's, well, one over there, David Jones's, that'd be on
It's
Cotty
on
Street.
Cotty Street.
His is in the greater ditch, I mean,
guess
you
I
know, if
haven't-
it never need to be cleaned out, it's all right, but there's times.
We can take a look at those and see if we might be able to adjust them or
I
something.
mean, I'd want mine up in the yard, I wouldn't want it in the greater ditch, I mean,
Right.
guess I never thought about it, I just
But,
figured
but I
it
know
was
that
where
we
it
don't have
was.
permission to dig up in the yard either.
Most of them that I've seen are at least started up the.
Back
into
into
the
the
yard,
halfway up on the
yeah.
bank.
Yeah, they're not in the, they're not in the
That'd be-
bottom of the ditch.
And we don't have permission to dig outside of the right of way line,
Right.
so.
Yeah, you
we-
go up
we-
in the yard, you're gonna run into liability.
And the other challenge you run into is a lot of people park on the side of the street. And you don't want them there either, where you're gonna run them over and knock them off
Yeah.
and break them too. So it kinda gets tricky on where you end up. You don't have a lot of room that you can put it in some cases. But we take a look at those and see if any adjustment that we make.
Most all of them's in the gutter ditch that I've seen. I mean, I never wrote no.
I'd say that they're close. There might be a few that are right in it, but I'd say, like you said, that most of them kind of are started up the
Yeah,
back,
or
so.
on the yard side of this.
Yeah,
the berm.
a little ways, so. Any other questions for me?
Not at this point.
So we have Willis pay request number 5, and that's for $350,098.11, which we offer up for approval this evening.
What was that, 350?
098.11.
098.11. Would somebody like to make a motion to pay Willis Brothers? Thank you, Mr. Strange. Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor of paying the Willis Brothers, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All those abstaining, same sign.
I wasn't complaining about that, I think.
No, that's a good point.
5 ayes,
I think you
no
guys
nays,
are
no
doing a good job,
abstentions.
or you guys
Let the
are
Willis
working,
Brothers
they're
be
doing a good
paid.
job.
Yeah.
But I just was
No, that's a good
concerned
point, and we'll take a look at it. We will. All right, so the next item, we have Key Cut Contractors, pay request 2 for $31,770.
31,000.
770.
770 even.
I'll make a motion to pay 'em.
Thank you, Mr. Stansberry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms.
I throw my pen
Kritziger.
on the floor at the same time.
All right, good thing.
I think it headed this way, Doc, but I don't.
No, I got it.
You don't want any of that.
Any further discussion? Since there's no further discussion, all those in favor of paying the Kia Cut Contractors, raise your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. All those
I
abstaining.
thought Mark was voting for a minute there. Is this thing?
No,
That's your phone?
That spot
Oh, it's just, I
glasses.
got a mouse thing.
Yep, 5 ayes, no nays, no abstentions. Let's see, who else do we need to pay?
We have the Klingner invoice for $42,653.23, and that includes some inspection, and also a portion of that is construction admin task stuff with pay requests and dealing with contractors on construction issues.
32 what?
42,653.23.
I'll make that motion to pay Klinger and Associates.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Is there a second to that one? Thank you, Mr. Stansberry. Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All those abstaining, same sign.
Okay, and then the last
5
item,
ayes, no nays, no abstentions.
the last item, we need to order funds to pay those bills. That total is $424,521.34. Approval on that. Order those funds from USDA.
Thank you, Mr. Stansberry, for making that motion. Go. Ms. Kritzsizer, she was in there with the second. And any further discussion? Since there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. All those abstaining, raise your hand. Madam Clerk, 5 ayes, no nays, no abstention. Let the USDA fork over the dough.
Any other questions for me? That's all I have.
No, not that I can think
Are
of.
we in the grant funds yet?
No,
We're still.
yeah, we're still in the loan funds. Yep.
And
You probably won't get into grant funds until probably, I would guess, February.
Willis Brothers are 85%.
Yeah, but they're not 85% of the whole project.
No,
They're about 50%
I
of
was
the
gonna
project.
say, they're a good part of it.
Yeah, so we've gotta get over $3 million before we get any grant funds. We're about 1.8 million right now.
And if
Two,
we
something like that.
do this, like a farm shop or this other things you're talking about, we can use grant funds for those. Okay.
As far as they'll take us.
Okay.
Well, I
Thank you,
think
Mark.
you guys have a merry, enjoyable Christmas and New Year. Before that, so.
Same to
Merry
you.
Christmas to you.
And I'll probably, if it's not me, I think we've got some goodies we'll bring up before the end of the week, so if you wanna come by the city hall and dig into them, you can.
Oh, boy.
Alright.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you very much, young man.
All right, there. Oh, yeah.
Anybody else need to get out of here?
Oh, no, I think we're here for the duration.
You've had your chance.
I do.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Hit all the blue spots there. Blue spots, green spots.
Thank you. Alright, y'all have a good evening. Watch the raindrops.
Yeah.
Hope they stay raindrops.
It's cooling down.
Where do we begin?
Well, let's start with the basic treasurer's report and see if we have any questions or concerns there. More came in and went out, that's always a good one.
Yes, it is.
But I guess that is a little deceiving since we're,
Tax time.
well, tax time plus we're not having to pay our USDA payment yet, but we will at some point after the project's over, we'll have to start paying.
That's coming.
Saw that one too.
But in the meantime, yeah, it sure made the whole balance sheet look pretty good, having the extra cash accumulated.
It does, our funds look very healthy, don't
Yeah.
they?
I'll hate to see it go.
Well, fortunately, there was enough planning that went into this and all of it that we've been able to build those funds and have them available, so it will carry us rather than having to start out with those payments too early and not be prepared.
Yes. Good job, kids.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, treasury report looks good. Everybody's happy. Yep.
okay, so next let's go to the budget amendments for 2015. Got it? Just like this, okay. Nothing's too extreme, in the general fund, we're looking at just a few items. The major thing was police salaries, and the reason there was such a big difference is because of district task force reimbursement. So we have a full-time one that we have not planned on, but as you can see, we did not budget the reimbursement also. By the time we budget that, it's gonna take care of the salaries and the related taxes that go with that. So overall, I don't think there's anything really significant, in the working fund. Street fund, the health insurance was higher, that was kind of based on, age of employees, so.
We're getting older?
Well,
It depends on who's in that department, and so we have, I think we're all getting older.
I think we are.
So that's unanticipated, on my part last year. Insurance recreation funds running a little higher. Special life funds, insignificant repair and improvement. I believe that we had not budgeted any repair and maintenance, and I assume that's related to the roof on the park.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's what we have going on there, which would have been things you'd already approved, it just, we didn't have it budgeted. Water and sewer, you can kind of scan down through there, nothing, the major things where the insurance was higher. But nothing real significant out of line.
Peggy, I don't, maybe I can understand the drug task force reimbursement.
Okay.
Maybe I wasn't around.
Well, we have we pay a police officer who is on the drug task force.
Okay.
He is considered an employee of the city.
Right.
Margaret keeps track of all of the expenses related to him, turns them into the drug task force, and the city is reimbursed for all
100%?
salary,
Yeah.
taxes, benefits.
Health insurance,
The whole bit.
whole thing, they reimburse us. It's only, in other words, we pay nothing, it's just that he has to be commissioned through some department, so he's commissioned through us.
Okay.
Yeah, so it costs us nothing.
It just has to be shown on paper.
But it has to run through, and
Right.
he is considered an employee of the city.
Right.
Okay.
Good question.
Do we get reimbursed on a monthly basis?
Yes, monthly basis. Yes, I
So
submit,
just about as soon as it goes out, it's coming?
right, yeah, I submit it monthly and it comes back.
Halfway there, man.
Yes,
We don't have more stuff like that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and then water and sewer, and Bill, this came from one of your questions when we were, looking at all that stuff with Cheryl. And we had funds filled up in the water and sewer, because we've just made transfers through the year to cover capital improvements in the water and sewer fund. And, we will have to have this fund now with the bond, and then we'd also have to have the debt reserve fund. Well, once the debt reserve fund is funded, then we don't have to make transfers into it anymore.
Okay, we just gotta get it to a certain level.
We're gonna have it there at the end of the year.
Cool.
So
I
it'll be
knew we
completely
were
funded
good.
by
That's
then,
great.
based on your recommendation. So that's what that transfer is, but we never budgeted it. It was just approved and on, so that's why that's there. And then in sanitation, we've got insurance, same thing.
Yeah.
So those are the, budget amendments that we need to make for 2015.
And then everything.
We should be good.
I move that we make the proposed budget amendments as set out in the sheet provided to us by the city treasurer in City of Edina 2015 budget amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Alberti.
I'll second.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Stansberry. Is there any further discussion? There being no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the budget amendments, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All those abstaining, same sign. That is so. I count 5 ayes, no nays, no abstentions. We still have 1 due to absent. Now,
With a budget the size we work with, you work with, and with all the unexpected things that come up during the year, I think that's pretty amazing. You got it that close.
Yes.
That was a pat on the back, I think.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
In a roundabout way, huh?
Thank you. I'm gonna get pretty detailed this year, because I'm giving you a tremendous amount of information. you've gotten the copy earlier to kind of look at, but I've got you a complete copy now that's bound. And in your bound copy, there are some minor changes, but very, very small. My basic approach to budgeting, and write on this, do whatever you need to do, you know, to help to make it work for you. My basic approach is I'm very conservative on the revenues. Anything that we can't count on, I'm not gonna put in there.
It's a maybe.
So if we have miscellaneous revenues, they're not gonna be budgeted, because those are not things we can count on or expect. As far as state statute goes, that does not create a problem, in most areas, and those are areas I just have to watch for. On the other side, you cannot spend money that you don't have funds to cover. So you cannot have deficit spending in any fund. So you either have to have the revenue coming in or fund balances already there in order to cover that. So on the expenditure side, in most cases, unless I know specifically what it would be, such as the 911, we know what that cost is going to be, and that's what you budget. But other than that, and things that we anticipate, I assume we're going to have about 103% of what we've spent in the past. So I try to budget above to give us that little bit of leeway, so we don't have to have as many budget amendments when we get to the end of the year. So that's the general approach I take. So very conservative with revenues and more aggressive with the expenditures. The way, I'm going to let y'all turn to page 4 on the budget, and then we'll backtrack a little bit. Am I throwing things?
It's me.
Okay, when you look at this, I've got it divided. This top portion is governmental funds. Governmental funds, if you were trying to come up with a definition, are funds that are basically supported by tax type revenues, and they're public service, essentially. When you go down to the bottom part, this is your proprietary funds. Proprietary funds should have charges that take care of whatever the expenditures are. They should be carrying their own, should not be covered by public funds, your taxes and so forth. So our proprietary funds are our water and sewer department, our sanitation. So there's a whole different approach to when you're looking at the water and sewer, which we would have to increase fees if we don't have enough, and we've had to do that in the past. So there's a different approach to those than the ones that are governmental funds. So this time what I did is I kind of made you a cheat sheet, and you'll find that right here. So, did you get all this? I guess. It's in this one. So because governmental funds are the ones we continually seem to have trouble with because our revenues are not increasing and our expenditures are, those are the funds that I'm kind of giving you more information on. So under the general fund, you'll see that our primary revenues are our real estate and our property taxes, which can be raised, but there is a procedure to do that, and it's limited by what the state allows you to do. The sales, the fourth of the sales tax. Now, how the sales tax is split up is something that, as a council, you have control over as to which funds that goes into. Right now, and for several years, we've had a fourth of that sales tax, the city sales tax, going into general. You look on down the street maintenance, we're putting half of it in there, trying to get some funds built up there to get our streets back in order. And the capital improvement fund has a fourth of it being set aside for capital improvements in the governmental funds only, not the proprietary, which are covered by the charges in those funds. At one time, we had that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and we changed that because we were trying to get some funds back in street maintenance, trying to keep our streets, in order. So in the general fund, we also have the Ameren franchise and the telecommunication franchise. Our major expenditures there are salaries, police and fire. The street maintenance fund, we also have the gas tax refund, which, comes from the state. And it doesn't increase, does it?
No, it's not much.
It is not much. So it is not adequate to cover what we need in streets. Your major expenditures in the street maintenance fund are gonna be your salaries and then just the cost of materials and street maintenance. The recreation fund, somebody couldn't spell cigarette, so I don't know who that would be. So the revenue cigarette tax, and that seems to have been going down and just looking at it.
The cigarette tax.
It doesn't seem like we're
Assume
collecting
either
as much.
less people are smoking or else they're buying.
Yeah, Gordon's
cigarettes.
gone.
news, bad news.
Gordon was good for 3 or 4 packs a day.
You're right, good news, bad news.
They're healthier so they can use the park more.
Well, that's true. And from that's park maintenance, and we'll kind of talk about those a little later. But special light fund, that's the real estate and property taxes, and we discussed that a little bit last time. Because it's not adequate to cover our utilities for streetlights right now. The capital improvement can be used in any of our governmental funds for capital improvements, and we're putting 1/4 of the city sales tax in there, and we're putting the Liberty Utility franchise tax in there. Are the basic things that go in. So kind of give you an overview, if you need a cheat sheet to go back and start talking about what we can do about some of our fund issues. And I don't know if this next information will help anybody at all. I used the last year that we had complete information. I know sometimes when I'm looking at something, it's kind of like, okay, what percentage are the salaries in that fund, or what percentage, like sanitation, how much is the landfill charges? To kind of give you an overview of, okay, if we're looking at this expense, how much of that is the total expense of what we're spending in those funds? So just as an overview, if we were looking at the general fund in total, 35% of those are general. If you come down to the bold on the right, 35.29% of that is going towards just basic administrative expenses. And then you can go on down, your police department is 54.36%. Now this is in 2014. And then the fire department is 10.35%. Just to give you kind of a feel for where the money was going as far as those. So.
Can I back up just a minute?
You sure may.
We get 3 franchise income.
Mhm.
Did we arbitrarily assign those to the different funds on going back to the first page? I mean, we got Ameren and telecommunications in general. Was that something we arbitrarily did?
Do any of those have restrictions on them that you know of? That's a good question. I'm not sure if they're.
Ameren is the one that we used to put in the special light fund, and that's when we got a lot of money accumulated in that fund, and we got voter approval to use it to build the fire station. And somewhere along the line, then we determined that it
We couldn't
wasn't
find
really,
anywhere that said
that
it
it
was
was
earmarked or
restricted, or that it was earmarked, that it had to go into the special light fund. I mean, just because it was on Ameren bills, and that's when the board basically voted at some point, you know, to say, okay, the general fund was what was always, you know, had no revenue, so that's why Ameren was just voted, I mean, because it was not restricted to.
And the reason that would have been done is, once money goes into the street maintenance fund, it does have to go
Then it's
for a
restricted.
vote. It is restricted at that point.
After it gets in
General,
there.
we can quote it now, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I was just curious. That's
Well, no, that's a really good
good
question.
enough answer.
Telecommunication is a fairly recent, addition. We didn't have much in telecommunication.
Now, what we used to get was just really from Southwestern Bell back in the day, and then of course
And it
that
wasn't very much.
disappeared, yeah, we got it twice a year, it was
Uh-huh.
3,000 or something. So now the telecommunication that we get on all of the different services amounts to something.
It's significant.
It is. And then Liberty Utility, I assume that was a decision that's been made for the council at some point?
Right, it's not that it's restricted anything, it's just that the board at some point, I mean, general fund was always the one that, you know, who took care of the police and fire and the city hall, all out of the general fund, and there were nothing much coming in, I mean, to sustain.
So based on that, then it would have the, flexibility to be moved, based on council, decision. Okay, if you wanna go to the budget overview, we'll start through things, we're required to have 2 years of actual for our budget, plus the estimated for the current year, and then the proposed budget. I've actually given you 3 actuals this time, just to give you a little bit more information. Taxes, the assessed valuation and levy is based on the 15 information, because we don't have 16 information yet. There is a fairly new section in there, not that it hasn't been there before, but we haven't had anything in it for debt. So we have summarized the anticipated debt based on what we got from USDA, and that's on page 12, kind of giving you the detail on that. We've had several fund changes this year. We renamed the Reserve and Improvement Fund, and we're calling it Capital Improvement Fund because that's what it is. The Capital Improvement Fund is just for the governmental funds. We were trying to keep it from being confused with the fund that we have in water and sewer that's required by the bond, which is our water and sewer replacement extension fund. The bond reserve fund is a new fund that's been added because of the bond. And then the last fund, the rehab fund, that was spent with things at the park this year, so it is now gone and it will not continue.
Good.
Yes, it served its purpose, so we're through with it. The revenues that are budgeted are consistent with prior years. I've kind of explained to you about governmental funds as we go into the expenditures. Some of the things that are not as consistent with prior years. In the 2016 budget, I put in $75,000 for materials in the street maintenance fund. This fund's been, the street maintenance has been neglected now for 4 or 5 years. Yeah, we put some major expense into it, and then it's been neglected, so. This is actually, when we look at the budget, you're gonna see it's budgeting a deficit for 2016, but we do have fund balance to cover it, so. And that's probably not gonna take care of it, but at least give us a starting point. The recreation fund. When you look at this year's revenues, under miscellaneous revenues, there was a large amount. And this is, a lot of it was due to an insurance payment that was received for flooding down at the ballpark, for the building, concessions building.
Right.
Yeah. So that amount I have included in 2016 expenditures as an anticipated capital outlay, cause it'll need to go back out for that purpose. And this is one of the funds that we always have trouble with, if the expenses are higher than the revenues that we have coming in. And so anything that doesn't get covered, we're gonna have to cover from the general fund. And this is kind of an annual issue that we have. We've already talked about the special light fund. For the 2015 year, we had budgeted about $10,000 coming from the general fund going in. No, wait a minute, we budgeted 12,000, we ended up voting to do 10,000. Was that last meeting?
Yes.
Recently?
Right,
Yeah,
yes.
recently. So we didn't use all that we had originally budgeted. This year, I'm anticipating about $11,000 to make that fund keep from going in the deficit, like transfer. And here again are major resources, the real estate and personal property taxes, and the rates on that. And when we talk about proprietary funds being, the charges should cover the expenditures. And all of our proprietary funds are doing good, so I'm not gonna spend much time dealing with those, because what we've got coming in is adequate to cover our expenditures at this time. And hopefully we'll stay that way for a little while. Salaries, and the information I sent out to you earlier, I included the requests that have been made. In 2015, we had the 3% increase, I believe, and then we added the new position for emergency management, were our salary issues. You'll see that I've got a recommendation here. I'm gonna recommend that the council or a committee be appointed to evaluate salaries. I just feel like it's really, we need some criteria set up, we need some guidelines set up for that. So my recommendation that we have an employee committee that would set up criteria for raises. They do an annual salary evaluation. They review the employee handbook, and they handle matters or concerns related to employees. And then that could be brought to the full committee and full council and decisions made. But I feel like without a criteria, it's kind of stabbing in the dark, so that's my recommendation. Any comments?
I guess I missed that, what page is that on?
Page 2.
Two, right, the second
Second
paragraph.
Well, there we are, okay.
I guess it's not fair to the council every year at budget time to bring this in and dump it on you, not really give you time to evaluate and look at things, so I just feel like it would be good to have a criteria established and brought forward as a recommendation.
That'd be a good idea.
I've done a little bit of looking into this with other cities and stuff, but it's hard to get a, I mean, not every city this size has the same, you know, expenditures and revenue and equipment and people.
Yeah, positions.
But that's always a good starting point. I know that's one of the things Margaret takes advantage of is the municipal league that you're a part of, and you know, when we're looking at things, she usually picks up the phone and starts calling around, and what are you doing for this, you know, things like holidays and so forth. Okay, what holidays do you take, you know, and those type of, that's a good
Right,
starting
find out what
point.
they're doing in
Cause
northeast
you
Missouri.
gotta weigh the benefits with it too.
But my experience is, I mean, trying to deal with employees, as soon as you start to try to verbalize or memorialize in writing some type of policy, you start running into more exceptions and rules.
Well, we have policies in place, we have a handbook.
You have a basic,
Right, that has to be handed out to employees when they start work, as far as, you know, what expectations are and you know, what benefits are and all of those things. We probably haven't updated it in a long time. And things do change with our laws. So, you gotta have something to start with.
You do, but what if we form a committee and they say, okay, all starting employees are gonna start at $6 or $10.50. And then Mr. Peters walks in.
It has
We,
come,
I mean, that kinda came out of the blue and it was nothing we could have anticipated or your committee could be prepared for. Or I think as soon as you start setting policies, you're asking for trouble. You gotta have flexibility when it comes to employees. You can set some broad guidelines, but I think when you start trying to make policy, I just think you're asking for trouble. And when you start enumerating criteria for raises, as soon as you list something, you're gonna forget something, and something else is gonna jump up and bite you. When we look right now at a particular employee, considering for a raise, say, okay, well, if he'll take this course and get this certificate, you know, then cumulative.
And some of those are already established.
they're already established, those are
You know, cause the 50-cent raises that come with,
licensed,
correct, you know, those type of things, a lot of those
already employees.
are already established.
But I mean, I think it's simpler for us to look at the specific situation at a specific time and say, okay, here's what I think we need to do. Rather than trying to sit here and say, you know, next year if this happens and this happens, then we'll do this. I just think you're
I don't think you mean we have to wait year to year, do you, Peggy? I think just have a committee and bring it before the board as we need.
For a recommendation or.
Right, I don't think it's year to year, it's continual, the way I understood it maybe.
That's kind of what I was thinking. That part of what they would do is, for budget time, have the recommendations.
Recommendation for budgeting.
When you start trying to set up criteria, I think you're asking for trouble. Well, I think a smaller committee to bring an individual case to the council is a good idea.
Okay, so if you were deciding to give somebody a raise, how would you go about it?
Tell me who and what's he doing and let me.
So that's your criteria?
that's what the committee would be for, wouldn't it?
Well, I think it should be, yeah. I don't think the committee should make a list and say, okay, before we'll consider you for a raise, you gotta do this, this, and this. You can't have more, you can't be late more than 3 times a month. You can't have more than 2 sick days. I mean, you start putting stuff like that down, I think you're just asking for trouble. My opinion.
Well, what I was thinking
Only.
is when you decide, you know, when this information comes to you and you're making a decision about whether to give somebody a raise, what do you think about? What are the things you consider? And that's what I'm calling criteria. You know, do you look at how long they've been here? You know, do you look at how job performance is? You know, what do you use to determine when you're gonna give somebody a raise. That's what I'm using the word criteria for. What are the things in your mind that you would use to make that decision?
Well, yeah.
That's what I'm
You
trying
look
to-
at all of those.
Should have that list available.
So you're just saying.
No, go ahead.
No, I don't wanna take up a bunch of time.
Okay.
No. I ain't gonna be doing
Well,
Well, I don't wanna step on anybody's toes, but I would like to see the employees have a little more pride in what they do. There's, I see a lot of little things that wouldn't take much time to do, and they ain't getting done. Stop signs are leaning, the gutters and grates aren't kept clean off. There's just a lot of little things, and I feel like that they could find time to do that. And
I guess I thought they were doing pretty good, but I guess I haven't been out looking around lately.
well, I could take.
I guess when I look at a stop sign, I just think stop. I don't think, are you?
I could take any of you around the town anytime you wanna go and just show you little things.
Well,
Little pile of brushes that ain't being picked up on Wednesday, why can't we do that the next day? I used to, I'm different, I guess, I don't know. Anytime.
I had a pile of brush in my ditch. I was gonna burn and they came and got it before I could get it
Well, I
burned.
have some that I
so-
would like for them to get, and it's still laying there,
Anytime
so.
that any of you
I
got to
know.
ride with me,
Yeah.
I could show you just little things. I mean, we need to have some pride. I mean,
Well, I think they've got.
Yeah.
So
They take
is
some
that
pride
it,
in
Davey?
their-
Which house was it that they took it from? I'll take mine down to your house.
Okay,
it's everybody.
down on North Street
I
down there.
think,
Okay,
Well,
I'll
let's-
have it down there
okay.
tomorrow.
Well, I have to admit, I'm a pretty much complainer. I complain to Margaret, and they get hold of you guys, don't they?
Oh,
I mean, there's just small things that they don't see. I don't know.
well,
I know what you're saying, John, because we notice it, but they work it every day, maybe, I don't know, and you did, but I agree, cause
Well,
I
I
just
hear-
come talk to Margaret and have her call the guys.
I was here for 20 and a half years. I mean, we shouldn't really have, they ought to see things like that need to be done. It's like stop sign up here.
But Delmer, you're a lot older than these boys are.
This is an exceptional year, by the way, you might
You
throw
know,
that in there, there's a lot more going on than a normal year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, amen to that with
Yeah.
the construction and.
there's a lot of water breaks and stuff like that, I'm sure, but I just think, you need to call Margaret and ask her to ask the
Flooding.
boys to take care of it.
I think, yeah, you guys
We
keep
gotta
on it.
communicate.
Keep calling in and it
Ty
it
knows I
filters
come down to the
and-
barn. He don't like me some days, but I go to the barn
Yeah, that's fine.
and I go to Mike
don't-
Wright. He wasn't very happy
We
with me
also
for you
run a
a few
4-man
months
crew
ago.
where we used to run 5 guys.
Well, we only had 3 for a while, Ty.
Well, as long as I was been here, there's been 5 guys, and there's 4 of us now.
I think we did run 3 for a while, didn't we, Delmer?
I'm saying before, that was before my time.
Yeah, we have run 3.
Okay, well, I'm gonna keep moving, cause this is gonna take a while.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll
So this is food for thought that we need to talk about.
mull this over and.
Okay.
Health insurance, we don't know what they're gonna be this year, I budgeted 103%, but that may change, so.
How much did you budget?
103%, so about a 3% increase.
I just know Mark went up 12, quite well on
One of 12. Well, some of them have gone down, and so it's just hard to know, so I thought, well, we may have to adapt this when we actually find out what our premiums are gonna be, but it would give us a starting point.
Yeah.
Capital outlay requests, these are things that have come in. As always, the things that are in the budget for capital outlay will need council approval before they're actually, just approving the budget is not approving these items. And right now, until we finish the project that's going on, I'm kind of, you know, on hold as far as doing some things until we actually know where we end up. It's just my personal approach, I would wait on some things, but, the recreation, that one is because of the flood damage in the building, so we know that that's committed money. We've had a request from police department, as far as replacing the 9-year-old car, and I think probably Kelly at some point will give you more information on that. That's just an estimate. Office computers, and that's for the two here in the office, which are outdated.
Well, we just got that computer, what, 15 years ago?
And then
They
Shovel the coal in it every morning and
upgraded
build
in
a-
order to run our summit
but the old one will be adequate then to go
to the city,
for the,
say to the city barn.
what do they call that, SCAT?
SCADA.
SCADA.
We can run SCADA on these, we could check with Mark,
Well, good.
check with everybody and.
Be nice to get some use out of them, but.
It's adequate to do what they need, but getting past the point is really adequate to do, and we don't.
For summit.
Utility
billing and.
Oh, I know.
Computers are
I've got
obsolete
one
as soon as you
at,
buy them.
got one at the shop and you try to look up stuff, you go to Bush Hogs website and it says this computer won't
Yeah,
run this,
right,
cause
exactly.
your software's too dang old. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I waited too late one time to replace a computer, and that's not a good choice.
Oh.
That causes nightmares. The mower, I know you've discussed already, but, Ty had some estimates on that, and so that's about what we would run on that, and he'd also requested some traffic cones, so those are in there. And I know the real-time cellular monitoring system for the water department had been discussed.
Yeah,
That's an
that's-
estimate because we don't know installation, that's kind of one of the things I would personally take a wait and see attitude to kind of see where we end up before, but that's not my decision.
I think we're gonna have to.
Well, I kind of like to know where we're at before we. Because we still have some uncertainties out there, so.
Talking to Mark on that, I think myself and Ty can do most all the installation except for the actual panel on the water tower deal. The solenoid changes and all that, I don't think there's gonna be a big, installation charge to go with that, so
So it's only 9,000.
it's gonna be pretty close to what the equipment costs, and then the actual setup that the software guys is all we're gonna have to basically pay for, cause we're gonna be able to mount the box and replace the solenoids and stuff like that ourselves.
Good.
So as far as estimating of installation, there shouldn't be a ton, you know, I mean, I no less than probably 3 or 4% more than what they are in installation, I wouldn't think.
Okay, that's good information to have.
It's good to have it in the budget, cause I think it's something that's, yeah.
When will you know?
Well,
good-
that's why I
it's
said,
good
let's go
it's
ahead
in
and
here.
get it in there.
Yep.
But it'd be nice to have our bond thing settled and know that's done before we.
So we're looking at March or April then on,
April is what they're talking about completion if everything goes. Mid-April is what Cheryl was telling me.
Wow.
So when we have a final bond closing, then we should know where we're at. And I understand they need a dumpster down at the water,
At the sewer plant,
at the sewer, okay.
Yeah,
Got that
4
wrong
yard.
place then, okay.
permanently down there, that's the 750.
Okay, so that should actually be moved down to the sewer. Now, my initial understanding was this project that wasn't included in the bond, but from your question, when you asked about
Oh, over at Purcell,
that we can include that in this project after all, on the grant
We
money?
made it sound like, yeah, that if we had grant funds remaining, we could expend them.
Oh, he did say that.
Okay, so we may not need that.
I don't know, and maybe he doesn't think we're gonna have enough.
It's possible, but we better put it in here.
Let's put it in.
I've got it in there because it was
Let's
like
leave it.
196, 198,
Yeah.
something like that, so I rounded, so it's in
Unless
there.
he comes back and raises.
Right, but that would be wonderful if we could use the grant funds to do that. So,
Yeah, I hate for any of them to go to waste.
right.
Yeah.
And sanitation dumpsters is probably not something we're gonna need this year, but I'd like to start thinking about, let's have a rotation plan in place as they're needing to be replaced. This is just kind of thinking forward. It's probably not something that we will necessarily need this year, but it's in there.
Well, I'd rather have too many than two
Because,
not enough.
well, remember
'cause
last
if-
year we came up a little short,
Yeah.
so we had to ask. So Peggy figured this time we budgeted so that if we came up to where we needed more, then we wouldn't have to be amending the budget again.
I'd rather
Right.
have more than less.
Um,
That's been good for us, I
Well,
think.
and
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Melissa has done a wonderful job of tracking that, keeping track of what the expenses are, making sure it's
Paying for itself.
working, and yes. So she's doing a good job of staying on top of it, and that makes a big difference.
Yes.
I don't have to ask her, she comes to me with the information, which I appreciate. The general fund, you know, we've got good balances, we're pretty stable there, you know, it may be going down some, but it's not a really significant amount. Our street maintenance fund this year, we're expecting to go down by about $30,000 to cover some street repairs. Recreation fund, we've already talked about, that fund's kind of a problem. Special light fund, we've already talked about that being a problem. Rehab fund is the one that's finished at the end of 15. Our capital improvement fund is in good shape. And our water and sewer funds are adequate to meet projected cost, which is what they're supposed to be. The bond service fund, is the new fund that's required with our bond. At the end of 2015, this fund will have approximately $151,750, and our bond requirements are $151,680. So we'll have it sitting there accumulating interest, fully funded, and no longer having lien transfers.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great.
The replacement and extension fund is the one that will be required to make monthly transfers of $1,264 for the life of the bond. So at the end of that, we will have money accumulated, which will be city money that can be used for the water and sewer funds, so. And probably, and I'd have to go back and read it, probably if we have something come up during the life of the bond that we have to use it for, that's usually requires approval through USDA, but we can usually do that for an emergency situation. And sanitation fund is doing well, we've kind of got that one set up, so we're setting aside money because when we do replace trucks, those are expensive, so it's not within our fee schedule that we have enough money accumulated, so that we can replace those major things when we need to.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Do we have any way of monitoring to see if there's ever any little grants out there for things like on the police side, police cars?
We'll have to
Yeah.
monitor over here.
Yeah, economic development.
Do you do that for us, John?
I'd keep an ear and an eye out.
Okay. Does,
And I believe Kelly and the police department also kind of keeps
okay.
an eye on
I
that kind of
just
You
didn't
stuff.
know.
hear about whenever
'Cause
there's
sometimes
jack
there's
grants and stuff
radios
like that
and-
and burn grants that come
I
up,
mean,
they
you know,
usually send
something-
out a flyer and let us know.
Not a big deal, some people could be a pretty big deal for the city of Edina.
Well, we
Yeah,
use-
they keep the police department pretty well, informed of grant
Okay.
funds that come
I
through.
just assumed they would probably have a few more than
Yeah,
some
Well,
other.
over the years, we've had an extra policeman for a couple of years through a grant back in the Clinton era with
Some radios.
that white
Got
Jeep,
our
we got the
Yeah,
white
we
Jeep.
got the Jeep.
through a grant. I still can't believe
Sounds like it's covered.
Chief Weigel pulled that off.
Well, we got the bucket truck too.
And our,
Bulletproof vest we got at one time.
Yeah,
at fire department, we've gotten several.
Probably the
Yeah.
new bulletproof vests are probably aren't new anymore, are they? They probably need to be
yeah,
upgraded,
exactly.
Did we get a grant in time for some radios for the fire department or?
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, we've been lucky over the years.
Okay.
But yeah, you gotta keep your eyes out. You gotta be in the right place at the right time.
And there aren't as many grants available as there used to. I can remember in past years, there was
Yeah.
always something out there, and
Right.
there's just not as much,
Yeah.
correct? Just not
Yeah,
as much
there
available as
hasn't
there used to
been
be.
any federal grants coming to the states for municipal use for probably 4 or 5 years. I mean, they're just, MoDOT used to have grants all the time, and they don't have hardly any anymore. And
Did you check about that for the street like I'd asked?
I've got some people checking in on it, but they said they don't know of anything right now. I mean, MoDOT's still gotta figure out how to pay their own bills.
We need to talk to the Department of Conservation. They got some money.
They got the money, yep. Unfortunately, they don't give out too many grants.
But because they have money, the state wants to take it away from them.
Yeah, they get looked at.
Okay, page 4 of the budget, this is an overall summary. So, based on what we expect expenses to be, those are the balances we expect in each of the funds to start with. Then the projected revenues that we're expecting, the projected expenditures, and what we would expect the fund balance to be at the end of 2016. So these figures, if I did it correctly, should tie to the detail that we're gonna be going through next. And if my Excel spreadsheet works fine, it should be doing okay. So if you look at the general fund, you see those are about what we expect the revenues to be. The real estate and personal property tax, when you look at page 12, I think, that information is coming from here based on assessed valuation and the tax rate. So when we calculate that, and then we calculate a collection rate of about 95%, and that's where that figure is coming from. And as you go right down there, they should be fairly consistent throughout. The new one is at the bottom of the direct task force. Something we had budgeted before. And then when you go on to page 6, then we'll have all the expenditures that we are expecting for those funds. With a projected that a loss in that fund of about $6,000. Not overly concerned with it because, as I told you, I'm kind of conservative on the revenues and aggressive on the expenditures, so we're probably gonna be pretty close to a break-even point in our general fund.
And we do have at least $6,000 in our savings account. We have to make that $6,000 up.
Exactly. Yeah, that fund has adequate balances in it, but that's not a big concern. You go on to page 7, you'll see about 2/3 of the way down are totals for the street fund in gray. That's the budgeting a deficit of $30,000 because of the street materials that we're budgeting at $75,000. Here again, there are funds already there to cover that, so it will not put the fund in a deficit. In the recreation fund, you'll see in yellow, under the 2015 estimated, the miscellaneous revenues, that's where that approximately $350 was from the insurance settlement. So you'll see also in yellow then for this year, the capital outlay going out for that amount. which is making a deficit in that fund, but that's money that was put in this year, so it'll be coming out next year.
And we've got a proposal, I mean, that's a known figure.
Well, the money was for the concession stand building at the ballpark, that's what the money
Okay,
came in
right.
for, to cover that insurance. So I'm assuming that it's going to have to be replaced when ball season starts this year, and those funds will be used for that.
Okay, well, how did you come up with the name for the?
Because that's how much the insurance,
The estimate was the insurance payment.
that's how much the insurance payment was that came in.
It wasn't the 12,000.
It wasn't.
No, there's other stuff in there, I believe the
Other
hay
miscellaneous.
was sold.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
paying out the
Okay,
lake.
so it's just a zero.
Miscellaneous.
Same amount came in for that.
Right.
Right.
Well, I was looking at 12 and 9, and I wondered how you're getting, I
No,
wanted you to
that-
be
good,
my
I
contractor. Or negotiate my contract.
She wants to push your pencil, you want her to push your pencil, huh?
Yeah, they mentioned that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I was looking at 12 and 9.
Okay, yeah, so that makes
Fine.
sense.
Okay.
That's what I was doing with those, and
Okay.
that's nothing you've committed to yet, and you'll have to vote on it when it comes around to it and all, but that
Well,
money really
it
is money
needs to
that
be, yeah, it needs to be done.
we can't spend otherwise, I guess is what I'm thinking. Okay, on to page 8 is our special light fund, and you'll see there in gray that I'm kind of expecting about a transfer of about $11,000 to keep that fund in the black for next year.
Do we need to go around and just unscrew some light bulbs to?
Streetlights,
Lights,
well,
some of those we added over the years, but you should have.
I wonder if they can, if we can, one time years ago, we talked about if we could replace some of those light fixtures with more efficient ones. At the time, we said, oh, you've got the most efficient ones, but those things have been up there for forever. Now you've got these things that'll put your eyes out 3 miles away, and they only draw, a half an amp, and with the LED technology and such and so forth. I wonder if we ought to look into that. I wonder if we couldn't have twice the light at half the price. And there might be some capital outlay to get you there, but if they're gonna be up in on those poles for the next 50 years, that's a long payback period, if you could stand to put out some dough.
Yeah.
Know about that?
Well, you'd think they would.
Cameron likes to sell electricity on town.
Yeah, it's like,
That might not be something they wanna volunteer.
Could you make some initial inquiries
Yeah.
and see?
I.
And the other thing,
Great suggestion.
I think, I know they're raising the tax rate is a long-term process, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't think about starting. Because
I think that's a good
these
suggestion.
rates are gonna go up. They're not going down.
No.
I said that about gas here a couple
If we had the budget according to the gas prices, she probably wouldn't have any hair left. But I'm liking the fact that they're down.
Let's see what Margaret can find out.
Okay, I think that's a
okay, yeah,
good,
I'll check.
a good
and see what I
suggestion.
can-
Because we could easily spend money out of the capital improvement fund if we needed to do something to get our monthlies.
But that
Yeah,
needs
you
to
wouldn't
be
have to do them all at
It
once.
needs
Right,
a long-term solution somewhere.
Right, one or the other. We've either gotta reduce expenses or consider a tax increase.
Yeah.
Okay, the rehab fund we talked about, it's over and done with.
Cool.
The capital improvement fund, your major expenditures, are your capital outlay for your governmental funds, and we've talked about the things we have listed there. Even with the things we listed, we would still come out good for the year. If we'll come through the governmental funds, and we're gonna now go to the proprietary funds. And That's water and sewer, starting on page 9. The one that I've got highlighted for 2015 estimated, your miscellaneous revenue of $195,794. I highlighted that because that is not normal operating coming in, right? Because that was based on things we had already paid for the bond.
Right.
That we actually got bond money to replace it for. So that's why I've highlighted that amount as what was coming in as not ordinary. Moving on to page 10 with the expenditures for those funds. The things that are highlighted in green are because I've moved them from water to sewer. Because in the past, we were doing the transfers out to our depreciation and replacement fund from the water fund. And we had interest, expense, fees, bond principal, they were all up under water. Well, I've moved them down to sewer because our primary purpose for this bond has been sewer, and so therefore, it's just a shift. So that's why they're down below now instead. The bond principal, the bond interest, and the construction interest are things we do not have an exact amount on now. And I contacted Cheryl and Elliot with USDA, and she gave me a little bit of information to work with. And so that's what I've done, and more detail on that is on that page 12. But that's where that's coming out from. And then the transfer for replacement and extension is that monthly amount that we're gonna be required to be putting in there. But the interest and the principal are my best guess. And we won't have an actual schedule until we get the bond closed. So those may be subject to change. And then the transfer out of replacement and extension, you'll see coming in as revenue in the next fund on page 11. The bond reserve is just money that's gonna be sitting there and accumulating interest, so you'll see that fund is just adding interest in. And then our sanitation fund will expect to increase by about $28,000, which is, as I talked about earlier, we're kind of have enough money coming in to take care of future larger purchases in that fund. And so this is the fund, when you were asking about dumpsters and that kind of stuff, this is the fund that would be coming out of.
Where are you, or because it's not exactly showing the income for the rental of the dumpsters?
The rental of the dumpsters is coming in as income under the sanitation revenue.
Where?
Just line 1, just the first line up there, sanitation revenue.
Right.
Oh.
It's not a
Not a
specific
separate.
line item, it's just
Okay.
in
Okay,
the
okay,
sanitation
Okay.
revenue.
okay.
And it on my report, or monthly reports, it is separate.
You get more detail.
The dumpster rental, yeah, is a separate line item.
So if you were curious what the monthly is, just ask Margaret
Yeah,
when she.
because it does come in separately.
Is there a variation in months because of construction and stuff?
Well, sure, you've got a certain
yeah.
amount of people that have, dumpsters all the time, but then a lot of
Right, and
dumpsters,
that's
you
just
don't know
Fall,
whether.
they give them back till
we
spring
have our
or something?
temporary dumpsters that come in separately. You know, somebody rents 1 or somebody rents 3 or whatever, that's shown as a separate line item.
Well, and
But not in this.
if it's,
not on our
the
report.
council's desire, we can start that
No, I
next year
just,
and have a different
Well, I
line
I
item.
just wondered if it was in there, and
Oh,
No, it's
like
right
it.
now, it's just in the revenue for
okay,
sanitation.
that's fine.
Mhm.
Yep, I don't wanna take any more.
Well,
No, I do.
no, because our purpose right now is to make sure that, you know, in order for you all to make good decisions, I want you to have the information you need to make that. So that's my goal tonight, and if I don't cover something, I'd rather you ask it, so,
You bet.
don't ever
Don't be
hesitate to
shy.
ask questions. So, our sanitation fund's in good shape. Page 12, we've already talked about a little bit as far as what's there. The summary on our debt is when this is all said and done, we're expecting to have $3,464,000 in bonds. And I'm hoping to use all of the $1,047,000 grant money. It's a 35-year term. The first amounts that will be approved, we had a 2.5% interest rate on. The second amount has the 2.75. Our monthly principal on payment interest when they begin, which will probably be May, which is how we budgeted it, will be $12,632. As you can see, our bond reserve is fully funded, and then our replacement extension requirements. So that's kind of where we're at. Any other questions you'd like addressed?
No, I guess not. Well, I don't know, on the employee salary committee thing, you know, if we get that together and decide that there are adjustments that do need to be made, we just have to do those as budget amendments then.
There's about, like everything else, I've got a 3% leeway worked in for salaries, taxes, and all of the related items, which is already built in. But anything other than that, you're gonna have to make a decision. And then we would amend accordingly.
Well, would anybody like to be on that salary committee? You? It's good to volunteer. Anybody else? I don't know. I mean, we need six councilmen.
Well, I mean, you can all do it if you want, but sometimes it's easier to have.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier, the smaller committee to reach decisions and then come back and, yeah.
And I would be glad to be available for input, you know, if you would like me to.
I'll help out, but I can't guarantee my time, so. I mean, if I can be here, I'll be here.
Well, if you're on the committee, they can probably schedule it accordingly.
Well, the railroad seems to have a problem with 24-hour clock. They don't care when they call me.
I understand.
Well, Delmer's kind of flexible, so, since he's retired. How about you, young lady?
Oh, I don't
You
know.
probably have more history and experience.
Well, I'm just gonna put it out, my opinion, and I know everybody likes raises. We gave raises last year. We have a lot of street repair to be done. And we just raised to the general public their sewer rates, and I just don't foresee giving raises right now. because of all that going on. We ask the people for more money, and we turn around and give it back away. But I know we have to take care of our people, but we gave them raises last year. So that's kind of my feeling this year. But if I even need to be set on board, I would be glad to.
Well, I would be happy to attend and put in my 2 cents worth, even though I'm not a voting member of the body, unless I'm time, you know, I don't think that's happened, what, twice in
I remember once, that's all I remember.
24 years?
Well, and the decision's still gonna come back
Yeah.
to the council,
My
but it
people
just
with the vote.
kinda, rather than having to have everybody hash it out for 2 hours, you know, get some of that done and then present it.
Now, when you talk about hash it out, is this something that has to be done in open session? Or does it have to be in closed session since you're discussing an employee?
No, if you're talking just what they're getting paid, I think it's pretty much out in front of
It's
God
public.
and everybody.
When you're talking about a specific person, then that's the closed session, but if, just in general, then
But as far as the
that's,
salary committee of 3 people,
that's an open to the public meeting.
not a quorum. I mean, when they bring the information to the board,
Then it's official.
Well, this would still be open meetings
that would be open.
as far as I know. They'd probably be boring meetings to most people, except the guys who want more pay.
I'd like to see the fellas get a raise personally. I think they deserve it, and I'd like to keep them. It's best for the city to keep these guys we've got than try to replace them. And what they're getting now, I ain't gonna keep them here. If they get another option, they're gone, so. That's how I look at it. I see them doing good work, so.
Well, it sounds like maybe we ought to get together, you, and if there's 2 opposites, and then we'll get Delmer and myself, and we'll,
Okay. So, salary committee of Ron and Renee and Delmer and the mayor.
yes. So now we gotta figure out when we can meet. I'll bake some cookies. I mean, cheap.
What?
And use some of the stuff you buy. You buy the roll and just cut off
Yeah.
a few. Those are pretty tasty when they're hot and
Fresh
chewy.
baked, yeah.
I like George Strait's theory,
What's that?
them Christmas cookies. There's 15 minutes for some hugging and kissing. You guys haven't heard that?
I guess
No,
I
no, you
Really?
fill us in.
don't remember that one.
Oh, well, you
I
guys
think you're
gotta,
making this up.
you gotta hear this George Strait Christmas cookies. I play that for my wife all the time.
Well, do you kids wanna approve this budget at this point? Do you wanna have till the end of the meeting to think about it? I would like to see a budget in place before we leave tonight. I don't think there's any need. I think it's a wonderful document. You can tell a lot of time and care has been put into it. And I don't see any need to have a separate meeting before the end of the year to
Yeah,
think
'cause it
about it.
does have to be in place before you can spend money in January.
And I'm glad you went through it like you did, I understood a lot better.
Good. Good. Well, I knew at least half were new, and so I thought, well, we need to go a little more detail
I
this
like
year.
it, most
So, thank you.
I need a refresher course every year.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the chair would entertain a motion right now to approve the city budget as submitted. Thank you, Ms. Pricksheiser. Well, I thought that was a nod there.
Now, you're saying without the payroll though.
Right,
Right.
it's not.
No,
Yeah.
that's not a done deal,
Right.
but it's not in there yet, but we can
Right.
address that
Address it
and make,
later.
budget amendments, whatever we need to do.
I will second that motion then, Margaret.
Okay.
Any further discussion? And as far as that goes, if you think of a question later, you know, this just, because we're voting on it now, doesn't mean you can ask questions you think of tomorrow, the next day.
Write it down.
You know, somebody finds a page, you know, that's, we didn't realize was off, and we've gotta come back and look at it again before the end of the year, but I don't think you'll find it in there. I think it's all good. So then, motion made, second on the floor. All those in favor of the budget, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All those abstaining, same sign. And 5 ayes, 5 ayes, no nays. The motion passes, and thank you very much, Becky, for all your hard work
And I
and
forgot the cookies.
for getting that. She usually brings.
You can go fix some for Doc.
Oh, yeah.
Watch out for the rock.
Give me the cookies.
You gotta put
that's
them
fine.
sprinkly things on top. Get that, I'll make a copy of that CD.
You need to do that.
You'll like that song.
I'll look forward to it.
Thank you, that
Thanks,
that
Peggy.
was great.
So where are we now? We're on bills.
Oh, we were at item. Oh, we've never had
Don't look at
that.
bills yet, guys.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, we better.
Well, where is Jake when you need him? The chair would entertain a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Miss Edwards.
I really don't. I didn't even look
I
at it.
looked
I was
at
gonna
it.
say, I didn't look at
Farm
it.
Homes hired it.
I'll second it.
Does anything jump out at you?
Thank you,
Do I
Ms.
need to look at it?
All those in favor of paying the bills, raise your hand. All those
And
opposed,
Ricky
same sign.
O'Connor
All
working in the
those
city.
abstaining, same side. Madam Clerk, 5 ayes, no nays, no abstention. Let the bills be paid. Citizens'
We
comments.
don't need this, right?
Stanley, you got anything?
This is the one that.
I guess as a citizen, I would like to compliment the Chamber of Commerce on the wonderful, wonderful job that they did. The biggest and best shop Edina First that I have ever seen. And everybody was in such a good mood,
And
and
there was this bell ringer that was just above and beyond.
And the weather was so good and.
yeah, I don't know who was in charge of the weather, but the Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber President.
Them and Rick Winter
I
were
know.
a good team, they really were.
They were. I got a good picture of them too.
Oh, yes, it is on there, I saw that on the video.
Well, I mean, I got a good picture.
Oh, you
of
have
them.
a photo, but they're in the video.
Yeah, they did a heck of a job.
Thank you. It was a good time.
So anyway, 2 pats on the back, 10 pats on the back for the Chamber of Commerce and their illustrious president.
Much rain as we got.
Mark Ross
Not
with
so
Ty
much this
Perry.
time. Good. But the weather never crossed the street.
Ty,
that
you
I
are a
saw.
lucky ducky.
I don't know about that.
Well, I don't know, it's December 12th and it rained 3 inches instead of snowing. I mean, what was it, last year, the year before it rained, it snowed every weekend.
Yeah.
And here, we dodged a bullet, so, yeah. So that would have been, they said, what, 20 inches of snow?
Your month?
That's my month.
What do you mean your?
Those are our locate tickets since we don't get anything else done, but.
Oh, this is what you've had to do this month?
Those are just a month.
To our sewer project. Mostly. Wow. Busy month.
Yeah, this is,
It's no different than any other month, I just kept them for this month because I figured they'd get brought up, so. Other than that, I don't know, we did some ditching. We did straighten signs. We have cleaned ditches out. Got stuff ready for winter, put trucks away, spreader beds in. Put their plow on when they were talking snow, so maybe we scared it off.
well, good. Good, well, it's good to be ready, but, yeah, that would have been a mess. I remember a couple weeks ago seeing footage of Oklahoma where they had a half-inch of ice and all the trees were laying on the streets and nobody could go anywhere. I guess I didn't see the Kansas, but,
Blizzards.
well, maybe that's part of the deal that went through Oklahoma.
Utah and
Yeah.
Colorado.
Rick
South.
Winter had ice on home from Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
But a little ice is one thing, but a half inch is one of those deals where, yeah, it was, oh, man, things are bad then. All the power lines down. So, when you're counting your blessings, add that one.
Be thankful for the things you don't have, huh?
That's right. Well, I think you're doing a fine job, and hopefully one of these days, the construction will let up and we can get back to business as usual.
Yeah.
Anything else for Ty?
Pay raise if we can push it.
Be what it'll be. Be what it'll be.
Well, thanks, Ty. Just in case I don't see you, Merry Christmas,
Yeah.
but I assume I will see you more than once before the Christmas. Is there Mr. Mike Wright in the building?
Yes, I'm here. I don't have much for you. We did have a considerable amount of flow in November, 110% of our design flow. Hopefully that drastically gets better here in the next few months
110%.
of our design flow.
Is that
Is there
The rain,
because of the flushing and the stuff?
the rain?
Some of it can be contributed to some jetting and stuff like that. Not a, I mean,
They're not using that.
You really,
No, not-
you're not gonna know until they're done then.
in this last rain event starting Saturday night, Sunday morning, usually within about 2 hours of it starting to rain, we have a high wet well alarm at the sewer plant. Our alarm system is on the fritz, so I've been kind of running back and forth like every 2 hours since it started raining to kind of see if it's have a high wet well. It took right at about 8.5 hours for it to cause a problem with us, so it is getting better, but we still are having a considerable amount of inflow. I don't foresee a big change until they start with the manhole relining. Just
Think
from,
that'll do it? Okay.
just from my experience with the manholes, when you look in some of our manholes and the entire wall is wet during a rain event, by the time you bottleneck that all down into a pipe and you have one of them that runs 3 inches of water, and then you've got 113 manholes or however many there are in the system, and you add that all up, it really gets big, by the time you figure all that flow in. So until they do the manholes and do a considerable amount of the lining, I think it's slowing it down because we have gotten a few of the big problems fixed with the replacement, but I think most of our I&I is a lot of little things, manholes, a few little cracks here, a few little cracks there that just kind of compound into one big problem by the time it gets to the plant. So I think in the next few months is when we're really gonna start seeing the difference.
And we shouldn't have much rain in the next.
It's gonna probably be March and April before I notice a difference when we get into the spring
Right,
rains, you're
yeah.
correct. Because everything's gonna be frozen, and if we do get a rain, it's most likely gonna run off the top because
Yeah.
the ground's frozen. But once we get into a spring thaw and it starts the spring rains, we'll be able to notice a big difference. As Mark stated, we have one new rotor. Yes, we're very pleased with that. It seems to be making a considerable difference. Just in the 8 hours that it ran, I came in on Saturday and read La Plata samples out and kind of did a walkthrough with the plant. And I think our clarifiers are even operating better with the new rotor. I think with the more oxidation in the ditch and the speed of the water traveling through the ditch and everything, I think the clarity is a lot better. It seemed like just in the 8 hours that it run from Friday afternoon to Saturday morning.
Is that when they got it done?
They got it done Friday afternoon, yes.
Sweet.
And the only is, you know, once we had our rain event and we got a high wet well, I had to shut them both off because we were having too much water. So we turned them back on about 2 o'clock this afternoon, and our plan is hopefully to have everything mixed up good where they can take the north rotor down about 8 o'clock in the morning and start their process of replacing it. We're shooting for Friday to be done with the north rotor, and then both rotors will be replaced. That should relieve a lot of stress from everyone. That's the bad one. We elected to wait for that one for some operational issues, but we're gonna make it, knock on wood. We just got a few more hours to go till tomorrow, so I didn't know if we were ever gonna make it to the replacement, but we're gonna get there. But as you can see, we're still in great operation. You know, our removal on our nutrients is 99%, pollutants is 98%, our ammonia is a 0.25, our limits are 1.4, so we're still good with that. Our grease is less than 1, and we don't sample for E. coli because our UV's out. They've gotten all the lights and everything replaced at the sewer plant, so if you're out at night and you want to take a drive, you can
Actually see the place.
You can see the plant and everything, all the clarifiers in the ditch and stuff, so I'm not out there by flashlight.
Window goes up again.
Oh,
I'm not out by flashlight tripping over steps and things, trying to change valves around and stuff like that, so that's a plus. But I don't really have anything for you guys unless
Okay,
you got something for me.
don't think so.
All right.
Oh, there's a question from the cheap seats there.
No, I was just saying goodbye.
Oh, Merry Christmas. Waiting on, I see.
Probably not before the new year, but directly after the new year, once they get a lot of that stuff installed. If you guys, anybody's got time, maybe walk through on a nice sunny day, even though it's going to be winter. Maybe if you guys want to come down, we can walk through and look at the new equipment and
Oh, I definitely want to see.
it's gonna make a considerable difference in the quality of water we put out. I'm excited about next spring. I think it's gonna make a huge
I
difference.
tell everybody I
Are
know
you-
that you really know how to stir the crap, Mike.
I got the biggest spoon in the pot, I guess. So, but nothing for me. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas if we don't see you.
Ty, who did that? Did we do the patchwork on Fourth, or did the contractors? They did?
At our request and at our expense, though.
Now, I'm assuming you're talking concrete.
Yeah, where they go through the wet stuff.
so do you figure out who did it?
Well, we know one of them.
Oh,
I would think tire correction of concrete would be evidence.
I think that's an ongoing investigation that we can't comment on right at this point.
gotcha.
Is that how you say that, Robert?
I'd say it.
Anything that you want to say or? add
Nah,
at this
Kelly,
point?
Kelly said everything's going good. Didn't really have anything to share with you right now.
Weed problem seems to be better.
Yes, it is, it is.
Allergies are down.
Yeah.
Until they actually get ready to think about getting a beat.
Is he a little excited?
Yeah, we swapped the,
Yeah, let's let the ink dry on
we
the.
got rid of the Jeep, but
On
the
the
car where the
budget
Jeep
first.
was, and got the new truck there.
Right.
That's how that went
I
down.
think so.
Unfinished business. What do you guys think about that? We'll go on to new business. Extended hours for liquor establishments on New Year's Eve.
Because New Year's Eve is actually Thursday,
It is Thursday.
yeah. So, because, yeah, I looked and I thought, oh, well, it's on Thursday.
Yeah.
And so I called Linda and I said, okay, is that correct? And So anyway, I said, yes, we would have it on the agenda, get the board's permission to have extended hours on New Year's Eve.
Well, I know that makes Robert and those guys have to work later, but I'd like to
It's no
see.
biggie. Not a big deal.
What's,
Like to see the VFW and the Blue Room maximize their profit potential. Also our sales tax revenue. Plus, sometimes I like to go in and celebrate, kick up my heels a little bit. The past 5 New Year's Eves, I had to wake up from my nap to see the ball drop. And
It gets better with age, Davey.
Yeah. Anyway, the chair would entertain a motion to allow the restaurant or the liquor establishments, the Blue Room and the VFW to stay open until 1:30 on New Year's Eve.
I make that motion.
Thank you.
Let the hangovers begin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stansbury.
is there anything going on at the rec center or community center?
On New
Did
Year's
anybody
Eve?
have a temporary liquor license? I was thinking there was,
We would have heard something by now.
I was thinking somebody
surely
talked
they
to us about that. Okay.
I haven't heard it.
Sorry.
Well, just, you wanna include the community center just in case somebody comes up with
Anybody
Well, that would be a
holding
permit
valid
anyway, wouldn't it?
liquor license or valid.
There you go.
How about that?
anybody holding a valid liquor license. Was that reasonable?
Yes, that's fine.
For your motion?
Yeah.
And there was a second, was that Mr. Stansberry?
Is that wrong?
Do the
Okay.
banks do anything?
Not for those days.
Any further discussion? No further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand, all those opposed, same sign, all those abstained, same sign, Madam Clerk, 5 ayes, no nays. And I see you have, in parentheses, you've got some dates here.
Yeah, what?
What's the
Oh,
Those
15th?
filing
that-
dates.
That's
Those are filing
that's a
dates left
reminder.
over.
Oh.
A reminder of everybody to
Oh,
file often and file early.
Yeah. Filing starts tomorrow at 8 a.m.
I thought that was how long they wanted the liquor.
Yeah, so.
That's right, yeah.
And if they open from the 15th.
We're gonna start partying here.
Put that.
So is it 5 p.m. on the 19th or
Yes, I'll be legal 5 p.m. on the 19th.
8 a.m. to 5
Starts
p.m.?
at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and then the rest of the days, it's regular,
Normal business hours.
business hours.
Just those days it's
Yeah,
8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
right.
Do you ever have anybody who's waiting at the window to come in and sign up?
Uh,
Well, I think I did
I was
24
gonna say,
years ago.
we've had
Was he peeking?
more on the early end of it, you know, because they're all getting ready to go to work or something, and so. But haven't really had anybody come.
24 years ago, I
that
think
close
Delmer
to
had
the
already
end.
beat me here, though.
So is it, who goes on the ballot first is who shows up first, right?
Right. Yes, we don't, some cities have lotteries or, you know, that type of thing.
And this is tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow's when it starts.
I'll have to come, see if anybody shows up.
Well, I thought you were gonna sign up for the mayor, I didn't know.
Take a picture.
And in connection with that, leading into Alderman's comments, okay? I've got my house for sale and I'm about the end of a term. I know houses don't sell very quick in Edina, but I'm hoping in the next 2 years to get it sold, so I'm not gonna run again, okay? Also, I'm gonna be leaving town, the state, January 1st for the months of January, February, March. I'm going where it's warmer.
Go where it's warm.
We'll see how you are.
Since I'm not running, and by April when I return, I will have there'll be a newly elected person. I think the prudent thing, and I'm going to resign effective January 1st, which is about the time I'm leaving town. I'm thinking if someone runs unopposed, you all might want to consider, or the mayor might want to consider appointing that person.
Because the rule is the mayor appoints and then the council has to approve of.
I mean, if 2 people file, you may not want to appoint, but I would like, for you to have that option.
Well, I appreciate that.
And
Your Honor. That's
also,
very nice
if
of you.
nobody files, which I guess is always a possibility, the rest of you need to get busy and dig somebody up, and I'm gonna say will be appointed.
Yeah.
Or something, so. I think, I'm just not gonna be around, we're going to Arizona, and now that everything's finalized, we're leaving about the first.
You wouldn't wanna fly back for council meetings?
So,
Well,
I
you-
thought we might have to have another budget meeting, but I mean, I think as long as I'm in town, I'll stay on, but say the 1st of January,
Well,
make
excellent.
my resignation. Do you want anything to write?
It probably isn't necessary since you made it formal
Okay.
and.
And if, you know, if anybody asks, I am not going to run.
Okay, yeah. And you run.
In the words of LBJ. Well, Your Honor, thank you very much for, I'm gonna shake your hand.
Oh, well.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
serving your city.
I
And
enjoyed it.
it's very, very nice of you to take the time.
Yes, they always say everyone should take a turn.
And we thank you very, very much.
No, I'm okay.
He said he enjoyed it, so
I got 10% left on my phone.
So,
Not as much as he's gonna enjoy Arizona.
well, yeah. Well, Ty's got 20 inches of snow on the ground to deal with.
Yesterday, I think it was warm here.
Yes, it was.
Any
I never got
other
there,
comments, questions? When would be a good time to try to get together? An evening, like at 5 o'clock, 5:30?
Dot and I don't really care.
Anything after 4.
I think
Unless I'm supposed to make the cookies, but I thought you were making.
I get off duty at 4 normally.
I think I did say I'd make the cookies.
You did, you slice and bake.
No, it's Rick and I, you're on the committee too.
No.
Delmer, Davy, Ron.
Okay, that's what I thought, that's why I said, you know, I don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah,
what
I
I
was
make.
agreeing with you.
2 R's and 2 D's, so it's R2D2.
Dot and I
Yeah, you would
wanna-
be a
Yeah,
good
Rick
with
would've
it.
been.
Rick would have been good.
But if we,
You can't
then
really
we'd
have
have a
one more.
quorum, then we'd have a
Yeah,
city
yeah,
council.
and
meeting.
we can't have one more.
Dot and I wanna adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, make a motion. I guess I didn't.
Are you making the motion?
Yes.
I'm seconding.
All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All those abstaining, same sign. Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned.
I wanted to ask if I should take that to Rick. The folder and stuff. I will see him tomorrow at work, so it's not like.
Well, Bill had a
Good.
good picture.
He took a very, very complicated.
Hi, Mom.
He did quite a job of explaining.
She may realize.
There's a trouble.